Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession, and by Harsh Construction LLC, with over 50 years of construction experience, and they are your housing and landscaping needs. Be sure to call for a free quote today. Um, I am the Maestro Jeremy Karp, and alongside me is one of the newest members of the Interstate 70 Sports Media team, Austin Bradley, otherwise known as AB. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp. It is September 3rd, 2025, episode 143. Austin, how you doing, my friend?
I am good. I'm stoked to be here. Ready to do it. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, people, you might be wondering where we've been the past, honestly, essentially month. It has been a little crazy. We originally have hosted this show on StreamYard. Now, we no longer are hosting it on StreamYard, and instead, we actually host the show on a website called Riverside now. So we're giving this a shot. All of our affiliated shows are part of this. And our very own, the Fabulous Babs, has taken a lot of time and effort into putting this together. So we are extremely grateful for all the hard work she has done. Um, with that said, we are going to get the show rolling. First, I want to say you can find Roundabout Sports on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pocket Casts, anywhere else you may stream your shows. You can find us on Facebook, on X, and on the official Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel. And before we kick it off with our first topic, Austin, tell us a little bit about. I mean, obviously you're a member of our family, but tell us about what you and your friend Jordan do as well.
Yeah, we have a outlet similar to yours, the Elite Sports Network. We have a morning show every morning at 9 o'clock. It can be on the same outlets that you have, X, TikTok, YouTube, and then we have a Roku channel that we post after the fact. And then our flagship show is pre-recorded. It runs typically an hour and 15 minutes, and that's where we just break everything down, the biggest sports stories. Uh, yeah, that's about it. You can find us on everywhere you like to social media. So check us out.
I love to see it. All right, well, perfect. With all that said, so there's a lot we're going to talk about today, and I'd be remiss the first place we start off is talking about in the world of college football. So, okay. Man, poor Central Arkansas. Oh, those poor bastards didn't stand a chance. They faced off against Mizzou in the opening week of the college football season. Mizzou proceeds to beat them 61-6. I know two of the big takeaways is the injury to quarterback Sam Horn, who was out indefinitely, and um, the torn ACL of kicker Blake Craig, and he's of course out for the season. But what are some of your takeaways, Austin, of how this game went? Because it was it was a fun game. I was kind of bummed they didn't get the shutout, but they didn't score. Central Arkansas didn't even score till less than a minute to go in the game.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when you're watching a game like that, and it's an SEC team that thinks that they're, that thinks they can be at the middle to upper echelon of the conference, which is kind of known as most years the best conference in college football, and they're playing an FCS team. You know it's gonna typically be bad. Uh, you don't really know how bad. I'll say this: the biggest takeaway for me from that game is Prabula. Uh, he was supposed to be Sam Horn's backup. He comes in after Sam Horn goes down. He comes in, throws for 283 yards and two touchdowns. Again, it's an FCS opponent. these are games that truthfully I kind of take with a grain of salt. To be honest, when it's a powerhouse team against an FCS team that's getting paid $100,000 to even play the game, right? Or more in some cases. Um, but yeah, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. Like I said, Prabula looked phenomenal. I think a lot of Mizzou fans actually thought he should have gotten the job out of camp anyway. So now he has it. One thing about Sam Horn that I want to note that I feel is important: Sam Horn signed a contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers out of the MLB draft, and he did sign with them. So it'll be interesting to me to see he goes down on the first play of the game. Uh, what did the Dodgers have to say about that, and how much control over what playing time he may or may not have for Mizzou for the remainder of the season do the Dodgers have? I mean, if it is a legally binding contract, which I mean, as you know, it is. So, I think more than anything that happened on the field, it's kind of the consequences of what happened on the field, off the field, that Mizzou's going to have to worry about for the rest of the year.
I was going to say, and ESPN had reported Friday that Horn is out indefinitely, and you know there is such an unclear timeline of a potential return, and it's interesting because earlier this month, the vice president of baseball operations, Billy Gasparino, was really wanting, and he said, quote, "We're pleasantly hoping he switches out the football for the glove." So it is definitely something that you would love to see. You want to make the full recovery, but I mean, now the jury's out on just what he'll do next. Will he continue to pursue football, or will he take that career leap into baseball?
Yeah, and I think that just kind of where does he see his future? Where does his future lie? I think when you have a situation like this, he's going to have to really take a step back and say, okay, what makes the most sense here? Does it make sense to try to recover and get back on the football field, or should I take the opportunity that the Dodgers have given me? And ultimately, I mean, like I said, this, the Dodgers might make that decision for him. I mean, he may now find himself in a
That
spot.
is true.
He may now find himself in a spot where it's like, okay, we're either going to release you, or you're done. You're done playing football. And I'll say this too about Mizzou: when you have a guy like Bo Prabula go out there and do what he did, I don't think they're overly worried, especially because the training camp and the QB battle going into the season was so neck and neck. Super interested to see what happens though. It's a very peculiar situation, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and a lot of it was because they had talked about how Bo Prabula and Sam Horn were in the position that they were basically neck and neck. It was going to be both quarterbacks seeing action
Right.
against Central Arkansas. So for this, I mean, obviously it's an unfortunate, devastating injury, but you're right. It's not like they're absolutely screwed without Sam Horn, which, and I know, can sound terrible, but I mean, it just also shows the depth that the program has.
Right. I mean, it's always been next man up, and especially at that level. So I will ask: have they said what the injury is? Have they announced that yet?
Um, they have not officially. There's a lot of, interestingly enough, a lot of secrecy when it comes to what it is. Um, and he says that Sam has an injury that's going to keep him out for an extended period of time, but he is They have not done a whole lot of specifications of what said injury is.
Jeremy, what that tells me is he's done playing football. That's what that tells me. Um, I would be very if they're keeping it that close to the vest. Whenever they released it, their kicker tore his ACL the next day, or if they're keeping it that close to the vest, that is Mizzou's diplomatic way of saying we're shutting him down. He's done playing football, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but that's kind of what I gather from that.
No, I agree. I find it very hard to believe that he will be returning this season, which is unfortunate. And I just hope, you know, it's a great full recovery for him.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Um,
regardless of who you root for or what you want him to do, I mean, his health is more important than baseball, football. It doesn't matter. So, for sure, he definitely hope he makes a speedy recovery and has success at whatever sport endeavor that he so chooses to do.
Now, that being said, with Bo Pribula taking the reins, um, this week it will be for the first time since 2011 Missouri versus Kansas. The border war rises again. And first off, I get it. It's because they're in different conferences now. But the fact that it's been since 2011 that we've had the border war is absolutely just
Too long.
disgraceful.
Too long.
Um, it has been too damn long. And what's interesting is they are scheduled to face in 2026 as well in Kansas. And then, as of now, the next two times are going to be in 2020 or 2031 and 2032. So we got a few years to wait again, but for the next 2 years, we have the border war. Now, I think what's significant about this, obviously you don't have ties in college football anymore, but there are 9 ties in this series. Well, right now, the series is 56-55 Mizzou. So a win by Kansas this week will knock the whole series up in literally every split. And then you'd have the big tiebreaker next year, and then they would have bragging rights. But honestly, right now, I mean, this Mizzou team, I know you can't take these FCS games. You can't heavily invest into them. But at the same time, it showcased a lot of the talent the team has, even after losing guys over the past couple years, like Theo Weiss, like Luther Burden, like Brady Cook, like Cody Schrader, you know. And so, despite that, the Mizzou offense clicked on all cylinders pretty much.
Right. Right. And through adversity as well. You know, I, I I have my own opinions about Eli Drinkowitz, and I have my reason for those opinions. But you can't deny he can coach football, and you can't deny that he can recruit, both out of the portal and Mizzou has found themselves in really really nice situations to land top tier, highly coveted recruits from high school. Think about he's not there anymore, but Williams Nwaneri. A couple years ago, he was the number one player in that class, if I'm not mistaken. Number one defensive player in that class, if I'm not mistaken. Luther Burden was highly touted. So yeah, I mean, he's finding himself in great situations to set the program up for long-term success, regardless of how you feel about him. And I'll explain that to you later. But as far as this game this Saturday goes, um, this isn't like basketball. This isn't like basketball in terms of Mizzou fell way behind Kansas, and they didn't have any business playing. And truthfully, before last year, they didn't have any business playing before when they were playing. But in football, no one team has been just, and no matter what the Mizzou pundits or Kansas pundits on X and social media want to say, it's not like Mizzou has been that much better since joining the SEC than Kansas has been. Um, Mizzou struggled. I mean, outside of the first 2 years in the SEC, they struggled. They struggled mightily until Eli Drinkowitz come in. I'm excited for this game. I think I love Jalen Daniels. I love Jalen Daniels as a quarterback for Kansas. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've been to Mizzou. I've been to that campus, and I will say this: their fans, all they think about is Kansas. All they think about is beating KU. We went to a good friend of mine and I went and watched them play Arkansas in basketball, and we got there early, and they were playing Mr. Brightside, and they're playing Arkansas in the middle of January, and when it gets to a certain portion of the song, their student section was chanting FKU in January against Arkansas, who is also supposed to be their rival. So um, they are consumed with this rivalry. I think this rivalry is up there with the Iron Bowl, up there with the game. It's great that it's being played again, and you cannot have that 6 year gap. You've got to find a way to play those games.
No, absolutely. And, once again, now Mizzou has won the last three meetings. And I'll never forget the one in '09 though, where Mizzou won 41-39. That one was fantastic. But nevertheless, yes, this is a huge battle that will be coming up. And, folks, there's a lot of other college football talk we're about to bring you. Thank you so much for tuning in, by the way. I can tell by the live viewership on X on the live stream, it's different than what Riverside is presenting us. So to those that are tuning in live on all of our social platforms, thank you very much. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp, alongside AB himself from the Elite Sports Show and the Daily Roundup, Austin Bradley. So, on top of Mizzou absolutely dominating, can we just take 1 second to talk about how funny it was seeing Bill Belichick get embarrassed on Chapel Hill?
Oh man,
That was fun. I got a kick out of it. And I don't care what anybody says. That was a blast.
you know, I'm gonna say this about TCU, and I know this firsthand. I'm a Michigan fan. Never count Sonny Dykes out. Whenever they played in the college football playoff in 2022, I was not even considering a world where Michigan lost. And sure enough, and here we are again in almost the same situation, not in the playoff, but in the same situation. He's coming in. All we've heard all winter long is Bill Belichick is the new coach at North Carolina. He's going to win a national championship in his first year and every other year that he's there. And they said, okay, let's dance. And, well, one team was dancing.
I was going to say, one team was definitely dancing at the end of the day, and it sure as hell was not UNC. That was the biggest loss of Bill Belichick's in the past 25 years, basically. It was really, put it in layman's terms, depressing. If you didn't enjoy that, but I tell you, I saw the funniest meme. The memes have been the biggest laugh of all of this, and for me, it's definitely the one where they said the score difference is essentially the age difference of Bill Belichick and his girlfriend.
I hadn't seen that one.
That one's great. Or when Bill Belichick was 48, his girlfriend was 14, and things like that. And I'm just like, oh boy. Like, here we go.
That's craziness.
Um,
From a football standpoint, though, just real quick, it was surprising to me how unprepared North Carolina looked after that first drive on both sides of the ball. Not just not just on offense, on defense too. They looked. It looked like it was. Um, I don't even want to say North Carolina was playing checkers. TCU was playing chess. TCU was playing chess. North Carolina was playing Monopoly or Candyland or something. Um,
Exactly.
it was in it, and that's the thing when you have a coach like Bill Belichick, who yes, Bill Belichick will adjust. They're not going to go 0-12 or anything crazy like that. Like he'll adjust, but it was crazy. Like I said, man, it was just crazy how unprepared uh, UNC looked from the jump. Outside of that first offensive drive where they scored, um, and everybody was freaking out because they were up 7-0 and going to win the national title. Um, Outside of that first drive, they were lost, absolutely lost.
Yeah, it was definitely, they looked very lost out there. Um, and you know who else looked lost? And looking at the stats here, you know who else looked lost? Arch Manning.
Yeah,
That was, and look, you being a Michigan fan, I know you would have loved nothing more than to see, and I like Texas, so, I would have loved nothing more than to see Texas take down the defending national champs. What the hell was Arch Manning doing? Like, seriously. It,
so
it was rough.
yeah, it was bad. I went back and watched that game a second time Sunday afternoon. Uh, Watched it in full, just because I like to watch games as a fan, and then if I'm going to talk about a game on any outlet, I want to watch it to break it down. The thing about Arch Manning is his reads were really bad, really really bad. There was a certain play in the third quarter where there were two defensive linemen that were unblocked. He had either a run up the middle or two tight ends that were wide open and that he should have thrown it to or just ran up the middle for a first down, and he hands it off in the tailback and gets swallowed up. Um, Arch Manning is going to be a good football player, but number one, Sonny Styles will not be talked about nearly enough because of Caleb Downs, and that's really unfortunate. Sonny Styles had a amazing game. He absolutely wrecked Texas. He did. Sonny Styles was awesome. Awesome. And Julian Sayin on the offensive side was good enough. And the reason that being good enough was enough to beat Texas was because of the defense of Ohio State, specifically Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, their safety, their new transfer safeties were so good that there's no wonder that Arch Manning's reads were so bad. I mean, he's playing on the road in it's his first true road start. I watched Michigan lose to Ohio State 8 years in a row. 4 of those years were on the road. I go back to 2018, or not 2018. I go back to 2016. Was he short? Was he not? It's the same kind of things. That is a tough place to win. I'm not worried about Arch Manning at all. He will get better. He's going to have a couple games coming up to learn, to grow. He's going to be just fine. But man, it looked rough. It looked really rough on Saturday. And if I'm talking too much, just tell me to shut up.
You're fine. I look at some of the schedule they have ahead, though. I mean, yeah, they got San Jose State, and they dropped from number 1 to number 7. They got Sam Houston. The big one to me, well, they got 2 big ones that I think on the schedule are really going to be telling for Arch. I think there's October 4th when you take on Florida down in the swamp.
Yep.
And then there's, of course, um, the big one at the Cotton Bowl with the Red River rivalry. Oklahoma taking on Texas. That to me, and look, you could also talk about the one on November 15th against Georgia, but I'm really looking at the Red River rivalry as, to me, what could very well be a defining game for Arch Manning.
Yep.
Oklahoma's not the powerhouse it used to be, but they're still a force to be reckoned with. And I mean, the rivalry is one of the hottest in college football still to this day.
Yep.
Especially now with both team, you know, or now with Arch Manning taking the reins, so there's more hype and attention drawn to this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do love the comment that we got in here from our very own Christopher Miles. He says, "quote I don't think there should even be an official rankings until week 3 at the earliest." Uh, and it's true because, and I get that because you know the preseason rankings heading into the college football season, it's just about grading the rosters. Then a lot of these week 0 games are power schools versus FCS teams.
Right.
On the cusp of hoping maybe one of these teams will get an upset as well as their payday, which we saw with Tarleton State against Army.
Right.
And there were some other good close upsets. Nevertheless, I do take a look at once week 3 hits is where a lot of the outer conference games end. A lot of the intra-conference and games begin. The rivalry games really start. And that's where you start separating schools as far as the ones that are the elite contenders and which ones, you can already kind of write off. And that's the thing about college football. College football, you are quick to be able to write off a team
Right.
based on the ranking.
Yeah.
Based on the ranking system, because you lose 3 games. I mean, look, in the NFL, which we'll talk about later, you lose 3 games. Well, hell, you're still, potentially a division winner. Lose three
Yeah.
games in college football, you're out of the college football playoff, and you're playing in the LA Bowl or something.
Yeah. For sure. One more thing about Arch Manning too, and this is what I would if I was locked in a room with Steve Sarkisian and he had no choice but to listen to me, I would tell him, man, you got to air it out. You've got to let Arch Manning air it out over the next 2 weeks when you have these inferior opponents. Get him throwing the ball. Go through your check downs, launch it down the field. I mean, you're going to have the opportunity to do so, because the thing that concerned me the most, more than the misreads, more than just kind of looking, that white look in his eyes of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. What concerned me the most is when he threw that interception at the beginning of the fourth quarter, he was gun shy for the rest of the game, and can't be gun shy if you're playing if you're a quarterback in the SEC, man. So they need to take the opportunity in the next 2 weeks before they go to the swamp, because I believe that Texas will win that game, but I believe that it will be close. Before they go to the swamp, they have got to get that figured out. They have got to get him willing to throw the football. And if you throw an interception or you make a mistake, throw it in the trash can and get ready for the next drive. That's really all I have to say about Texas and Ohio State. But as far as the ranking systems go, to comment on that, I'm going to be honest, I'll take it one step further. I think, what do they release the college football playoff? Is it 6 weeks in? Is it week 8 or week 7?
It's about week. I thought it was week 8, but it might be week 7.
If it's the college football playoff rankings that decide the postseason, those are the only rankings that should matter. I've said that for years. The AP poll.
Well, it's true. What's the point of being number 25 in a ranking list if that doesn't put you in the playoff? I mean, every team's goal is to make it. And here's another thing, and I know this is definitely good for a future episode as well, but let's face it, they always talk about it being fair and everything. No, let's face it, not every team gets the fair crack at being in the college football playoff. Okay, the NCAA will do literally anything in their power to prevent a Sun Belt team or a Conference USA team from even sniffing the college football playoff if it means literally having the entire SEC in there. Like, conferences, you sacrifice a lot some of these conferences are literally sacrificial lambs just to appease the other conferences. And it's sad because every school matters in the grand scheme of things. And I'm going to say one more quick thing on college football before we reach our halfway point here. And that is kudos to Missouri State. And you may ask why, because they lost 73 to 13, and that was the most points USC has scored in about 70, 80 years. But first off, Missouri State, this was their first game as an FBS team. They go to the Coliseum, which is one of the hardest places to play in college football. They jump out to an early lead against USC. And they still get 10 more points on top of that. And like I said, 73 to 13 may not seem good on paper, but they get a lot of money to the program. And it's a great way to get that early attention on them. Like, hey, we fought a long time to get here. So we're here to stay. Like, okay, here's an example. I do like Mizzou, or not Mizzou, most State has this upcoming Saturday, they got Marshall. They go to Marshall and play the Thundering Herd. Then they got number 17 SMU at most State. They got UT Martin in Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers. Both of those are home games. So, I mean, there are some winnable games early on. I think they can split these next four. I see them beating UT Martin and Western Kentucky. I'm not going to lie, SMU is probably going to steamroll them. And I see an interesting game between them and Marshall. I really do. And at the end of the day, people need to understand this is their first year in FBS. Them and Delaware, they're the youngest teams in the big time now. And there's going to be growing pains. There's learning curves. But at the same time, you just have fun and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Missouri State goes, and you have to realize this too, like these smaller schools, your Missouri States, your Delawares. I mean, you could continue to go on and on. Marshall, like three schools you just named there. Western Kentucky, even to an extent. New Mexico, like they don't have the resources. They don't have the ability to recruit at the level that Michigan and Texas and Ohio State and Florida and all of these schools that you can name that are in the college football playoff year in and year out. And Alabama, Auburn, they don't have the same resources and abilities as those schools do, and they never will. Truthfully, they never will. I don't ever foresee a time where Missouri State is looked at in the same respect that Michigan, or that the same respect that even like Mizzou or Tulsa or SMU are looked at. And it's unfortunate, but you see that in the power conferences too. Rutgers in the Big Ten does not have the same capabilities as Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State, right?
Yeah. That's very true. So moving on now, folks. First off, I want to thank you all for tuning in. It is episode 143 of Roundabout Sports. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Carp, alongside AB himself, Austin Bradley. Babs is taking care of a lot of great things behind the scenes right now. As her and AB are actually going to prepare for their new show on Interstate 70 Sports Media called The Main Event with Austin and Babs. So there's a lot of great things in store with that. I want to move forward now. And I want to discuss the St. Louis Cardinals for a second. Because, and there's just one thing that we had mentioned before we went on the air that we were going to talk about. And it's Brant Brown's comments regarding Jordan Walker. And it's interesting because essentially Brown called out Jordan Walker on KMOX yesterday. But I'll tell you this. I'm not gonna lie, AB. I mean, Ollie went on the show known as the Gas House Gang. He brought Brant Brown along, and Bernie, to his credit, wasted no time asking the guys about Jordan Walker's struggles, because Walker was the biggest hyped up player in our organization since the late Oscar Taveras. And he had a really good rookie campaign, but he's struggled ever since. Um, yeah. So here is what Ollie said. Quote, I need to see Jordan have a sense of urgency for the things that need to take place in order to give him consistent results. Now, right now he is hitting 220 this year, and he only has 5 home runs and 328 at bats. If he was a qualified hitter, his 587 OPS would be dead last. This is the thing. We live in a world where now coaches, and this split a lot of people. This split a lot of people down the middle because of how it was done. A lot of people say it should have been an internal issue. It should have been something that should have been discussed just in the clubhouse. I don't like the fact that these days guys can just come on, managers and coaches can just come on podcasts and shows and essentially shit on the player. I mean, that's basically what they did. And people will deny it, I'm sure, but that's what they did. But at the same time, I also feel like there's a lot of pressure on Jordan Walker to be this great prospect he was hyped up to be. Especially when you have so many great young prospects in our organization breathing down his neck, basically, ready to come up and eventually, potentially take his spot. So my question to you is, taking into account what Ollie and Brant Brown said, not necessarily was it justified in saying it, but what was it justified saying it where they said it?
Absolutely it was, in my opinion. I think that is exactly what needed to happen, because I'll just say, if Ollie Marmol and Brant Brown are telling the Gas House Gang that Jordan Walker doesn't come to the ballpark ready to prepare for games, I guarantee you that they've told Jordan Walker that multiple times. And there comes a time where we as fans, in an instant gratification world, we don't want to rebuild. We want to win. We want to win right now. And Jordan Walker is a future cornerstone of this team. I believe, what is he, 23? Is he 23 or 24?
Yeah.
He's still a young guy. I think that he has, with preparation, we're going to use that word a lot, I feel like, from now on when we talk about him. Maybe, unfortunately now, for the rest of his career, we're going to talk about preparation. If he prepares right, he has the frame and the athleticism to be a 35 to 40 home run hitter every single year. But if he is not willing to put in the time before the ball games, whenever you're and I'm going to use this, and I'm going to get roasted online for this, and I understand, but when you're
There he goes.
When you're technically still in a playoff race, I know they're not going to make the playoff. I know that they're done. When you look at the numbers, you're technically still in that, and you're unwilling to come to the ballpark and prep. That's a problem. And if you tell the player that and he still doesn't fix it, absolutely, whenever the media asks you, why can't Jordan Walker hit a baseball, you absolutely have the right to say, because he doesn't work on it. He doesn't work on his craft. Jeremy, I understand that all hope for a playoff berth is gone. But I'm talking about when you look at the numbers. You see what I'm saying?
No, I get it. Statistically speaking, like they are not mathematically eliminated, and there's some crazy hoodoo voodoo magic that can happen to where the Cardinals will find a way to pull a playoff berth out of their ass and make it to the wild card. It's possible, especially now that they've expanded the playoff field once again to add another team. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I will say, and maybe it's going to be different because this is Mo's last year, but I don't want this to be another situation where it goes, hey, we made the playoffs. We don't got to worry about what next year is because, hey, if we made the playoffs this year, well, then there's not really anything wrong. There is a lot wrong with this team. We have the worst starting rotation in baseball, which is so ironic because if you include McGreevy, because he hasn't been on the in the rotation long. But if you include Michael McGreevy, you have some of the best upcoming pitchers, starting pitchers in baseball. You got Liam Doyle, you got Quinn Matthews. When Tim Henson is healthy, he is just absolutely fire. Even Liebertor is he's pretty good. But at the end of the day, it's the rotation you started the season with and continued to roll out there. And I think the most glaring statistic is in games that were not started by, if you take out all the games the Cardinals lost by Palante, Michaelis, and Fetty, the Cardinals have the best record in baseball. So we're here saying that they have the best record in baseball in one parameter, whereas meanwhile, we're also looking at the fact that they're still below 500 and they're essentially out of a playoff race.
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, like, a lot of poor decision making. Now, to backtrack with the whole thing about the right place and the right time as far as when to call out a player. There's not a perfect example ever, or there's not an example more perfect than when Ali called out Tyler O'Neill. When Tyler O'Neill got called out, and even when Contreras has gotten called out publicly, and yes, press conferences are public. I count that. And I get it. The media by MLB rules, players and coaches have to be available to the media. So they can't just say, hey, we're not going to talk about this or buy or things like that. No, I get it. But it's the fact of the matter that this management has no problem just going out there and essentially saying, hey, this guy doesn't have good work ethic or he made a stupid decision. It makes you as a fan question your faith in that player. Because, okay, you want Jordan Walker to thrive and you want him to be the top guy that he has the potential to be. But then you say to yourself, well, wait a minute. If the coaching doesn't believe in him, why should I? Why should I go out, watch a Cardinal game or listen to a Cardinal game and believe in Jordan Walker if every time he's out there, the management's like, well, he's probably just going to get out. Like that's my thing, AB. Like the Cardinals publicly calling out players usually signals the end of that player's time in St. Louis because to me, publicly calling out a player like that is the biggest confidence breaker. Not just in the player-manager relationship, but just in the player themselves. In sport, you know this as well as anybody. Sports are as much, if not more, mental than they are physical.
Right.
So if Jordan Walker's going to the ballpark, and if he's already fed up with coaching, I mean, you're already on the verge of starting a fractured relationship because you just went on Camo X and just basically said, hey, he needs to do a lot better. There's no urgency. Like, there's a difference between saying, hey, he's a better hitter than that. He can adjust certain mechanics, not a swing, but he can adjust certain mechanics, maybe be more patient at the plate, things like that. But to say he doesn't have the urgency, to say that he needs that urgency, is calling out his heart and his character and to an athlete. And that is where I think a lot of Cardinal fans are going to start getting divided because they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, why did I always say this? And then you got fans and folks such as yourself that are saying it is right that he called him out. He needed to get called out. Like, put his ass on blast. If he's not doing well, it should be known.
Yeah, I mean, how do I want to put this? I think the Tyler O'Neill situation is totally different. I mean, that was blatantly obvious. I mean, the guy slowed down before he slid into home. Um, I mean but also that was more handled the wrong way, I believe, than this is. I think you're seeing a guy. All right, I'm trying to think of how to put this to you. Jordan Walker has been given 3 years now. This is his third season in the big leagues, right? And at some point, and I've been around sports for a long time in a lot of different roles. At some point, coaches get tired of being the punching bag, so to speak. And if you've got a guy, and this is where I say, from a coach's perspective, if you've got a guy on your team, it's like a parent. I'll give it to you from a younger age. You've got a kid that's a snot-nosed brat that doesn't try and practice, but mom and dad think he should play. And then mom and dad come to you and they say, hey, why ain't little Johnny playing? Well, that's because little Johnny sucks. And little Johnny isn't doing anything to try to get better. It's the same thing. If the Gas House gang is asking Oliver Marmol and Brant Brown, hey, why is Jordan Walker striking out 4 times a game? Well, it's because whenever we have batting practice at 4:30 when the game starts at 6, and he comes rolling in at 4:45, and you may think, oh, only 15 minutes, but 15 minutes over 7 days is over 2 hours. I mean, yeah, I that's where we disagree. I guarantee you that it was not the first time that Jordan Walker had been told, dude, you got to figure it out, man. You're 24. You're supposed to be coming into the prime of your life here, and that's on him. Now, I don't necessarily agree with attacking his character, but there's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, we've been telling him to come to the ballpark early and work on his swing, and he won't do it. That's just how I am on that.
Okay. And that's totally fine. I just think I definitely knew this has been a hot topic for the Cardinal, like just all over in baseball in general now because of the hype surrounding Jordan Walker and the disappointment surrounding the Cardinals. So, with that, we're going to move on, folks, to our final topic of the evening. And this is a biggie. Tomorrow, the Philadelphia Eagles take on what's left of the Dallas Cowboys in the very first opening regular season game for the 2025 NFL season. As Saquon Barkley will rush for 397 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Micah Parsons-less Cowboys defense. At this point, they need to put old man Jerry in a nursing home because he just is delulu as can be. So, with that, I know before the show, I told AB to surprise me with his AFC and NFC championship. AFC and NFC championship picks, and Super Bowl predictions, and so on. So, as our special guest host for this week, I'm letting you have the floor with your championship game picks, and then your Super Bowl prediction, and then I will gladly give mine.
Okay. So in the NFC, I have the Cowboys taking on the Cowboys. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Um,
They'll somehow
no,
tie.
uh, I'm joking. In the NFC, I think I have the Lions and the Eagles. Uh,
Ooh.
I think that would be make for an exciting game. I think Saquon is going to have another huge year. I really like Saquon Barkley. He is a phenomenal player. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think Jalen Hurts is in the prime of his life. He's going to put together another stellar year. They're going to get back to the NFC title game where they're going to play, and they are going to lose to the Lions. I think the Lions finally get over the hump there and make it
What?
to the Super Bowl. And then I think on the AFC side, we're going to have another classic Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills game
Oh,
uh,
Lord.
that have, hey man, you can't deny they have delivered some classic football games, both in the regular season and the playoffs. I think we're going to get another
Of
one.
course.
And I think the more things change, the more they stay the same. I've got the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs will be in their fourth consecutive Super Bowl. Don't at me. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I promise I'm not. But the power of Taylor Swift is going to carry the Kansas City Chiefs all the way to the Super Bowl, where they will lose to the Lions. There's
Wow.
my prediction.
Well, wow. I actually did not see that one coming. Now, I will say, as a Cleveland Browns fan, I would love to say this will be the year they finally get over the hump, win the Super Bowl, yada yada yada, and I run around the street streaking with the Cleveland Browns flag behind my back. But that's not going to happen this year, so I got to be realistic. My NFC one is actually going to be. This is going to be a fun one. I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but we're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're going with the Washington Commanders. I look. Jaden Daniels is going to have a huge year this year, bigger than last year. He's going to break out. The team around him has only gotten better. And the thing of it is, Washington got in their own way last year at that championship game. It could have been so much closer, but they just really dropped the ball. I think now that changes in the sense. I still have the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl, but I see it in overtime against Washington. Um, you know. Now, as far as the AFC, this is where it gets interesting. As a Browns fan, this kills me to even say this. One of the teams I got going is the Baltimore Ravens to the AFC Championship game. The big hurdle for Lamar Jackson has been getting to the AFC title game. It's always been the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes show. Not this time. I think that they will meet the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But I have the Baltimore Ravens advancing to the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles, and will be one of the most thrilling Super Bowls of all time, I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning. Lane Johnson will retire following the game, going out on top. But overall, I see, and I think also after the game, win or lose, I think Derrick Henry retires as well for the Ravens. But I think the time the Chiefs and Ravens, they need to meet in the AFC title game. We've seen the Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes show enough. It's time for Lamar to really show that he's more than like a one-trick pony. So, yeah. I got that. And then, like I said, yeah, I got the Eagles beating the Ravens, which would be a hell of a fun Super Bowl to watch, by the way. Um, and so, yeah, I just had to throw that out there. Now, AB, I don't know if you've tuned into the show before over the past 142 episodes here and there, but there is some things we do, some kind of, I wouldn't say routine maintenance, but it is definitely a tradition we do at the end of every show. As always, we plug where you can find us. Obviously, we're on Facebook, X, and our YouTube channel. You can listen to Roundabout Sports on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Cast, Spotify, anywhere else you stream. But this is where it gets more serious. And now that we're on Riverside, I have to figure out how to put the text at the bottom of our screen. But we always had it on the bottom ticker on StreamYard. And that is, we started off by talking about the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the NAMI helpline. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle with mental health issues. And of course, now and with especially this month being Suicide Prevention Month, after the end of every episode of Roundabout Sports, we always put up the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Once again, I got to figure out how to put it on the screen, but the number is 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody out there who loves you, who cares about you, who wants nothing but the best for you. We all go through struggles and trials and tribulations every single day, but they don't have to be faced alone. You are just a phone call, a text message, an appointment away from what could be that life-saving moment for you. And you could be the listening ears and watchful eyes for somebody else in need as well. Of course, I want to thank the amazing team at I-70. I want to thank Babs. I want to thank AB for joining me this evening. And I want to thank you all for tuning in as we start kind of a new era, if you will, with how we air our shows here. Until then, he's AB and I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. And as always, remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. We'll catch you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.